I want to welcome our first guest of the morning from Finsiders in Miami, Josh Houtz, joining us now. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing great, Bobby. I'm glad we're able to come on here and talk Dolphins football and Tua because at one point this year, I didn't know if we'd ever get a chance to talk again.
Well, I wasn't sure certainly if Tua was going to be there, if Brian Flores would be there, whether Chris Greer would be around. I mean, I think there was a time when things were in a state of flux. But now, 5-game win streak, and all seems okay. I am hearing still, the Dolphins might be interested in a trade. But if they are, I'm thinking, why? You certainly wouldn't need to based on the play of Tua Tagovailoa recently.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of how I felt and a lot of Dolphins fans kind of felt all along. I mean, they never truly built around Tua and gave him a chance. That offensive line's still a little bit in shambles. We know the weapons, so I can't sit here and say fully confidently that, the Dolphins are now Tua's their guy, but now that the trade deadline passed, they were, losing 7 in a row, and now they just continue to win. 5-game win streak, and you have to think that had something to do with it.
Well, I just have noticed something, and I think Logan Ryan of the Giants made some snarky comment after the Dolphins beat them last Sunday about, anyone he can throw 6-7-yard passes, as Tua as undoubtedly was doing. But I just think if the Giants weren't going to cover it, Miami does not have much of a run game. It's still a lousy offensive line. Basically, they got into a pass control the clock through passing, and I thought it was incredibly well executed.
I completely agree, and I don't have anything, I don't see anything wrong with the way the Dolphins were moving the ball. I mean, Tua looked like a surgeon at times. Yes, he was throwing those short intermediate passes, but, going back to Alabama, that was some of the stuff he did so well. So I just think it's funny that, it was Logan Ryan this week. I think a few weeks ago, another defensive player took a stab at him. So if you can't stop it, then what's the problem here? So I think the Dolphins are finally starting to get in a rhythm, but you're right. They're trying to mask that poor offensive line, that poor run game by using some of those quick intermediate passes.
Well, it worked beautifully, I thought, and Tua's incredibly accurate. I think his most significant attribute might be accuracy, that and composure, because he never looks rattled. I don't know has anybody else not noticed that? Let me ask you this to start. Has the media started to come around on Tua in the general Miami area?
They are. I think the media is finally starting to come aboard. They're starting to understand why this fan base is so rabid every time they took a shot at Tua or through some type of shade. So I think they are starting to finally come together. To your point about Tua, it always was the accuracy. It always was his composure in the pocket. And credit to the Giants, they kind of rattled him a little bit. He did have a couple off-target throws, but when you go out there and complete 30 or 41 passes for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns, didn't win. And many people would say he was a little bit off that game. That just speaks to the volumes of just how far along he's come, since that trade deadline, since earlier in the season when we talked. Tua looks like a legit NFL quarterback now, and earlier in the year, a lot of those media pundits might have been saying otherwise.
There was a point in that game where I was watching it. It was carried in Hawaii. He was 17 for 20 at one point in the game. That's 85%. I think he finished at 73 or something percent. But, we're talking about a guy whose accuracy is not in question. I know some people, why doesn't he go downfield more? Well, he had that nice touchdown to the backup tight end I thought was pretty good. That was a big-time throw.
Yeah, he makes a bunch of big-time throws, and it goes back to the offensive line. He has 2.33 seconds to throw the football. This was the first game he had Devontae Parker back in how many weeks? They signed Will Fuller, that big all-season target. He hasn't even been out there. So really, all he did this offseason was bring in Jalen Waddle for Tua, and I say only because, Jalen Waddle's been phenomenal, but when that's the only piece that you really have to target and focus on, I don't really think there's a lot of those big plays downfield, but hopefully with time, with a better offensive line, maybe next year with a legit running back, maybe those deep plays do open up, and we do see Tua unleash that part of his game that, is that we haven't really seen yet in the NFL.
Well, I think it's coming. I think it's baby steps. I think while the Dolphins are winning, I really don't see. If I'm Brian Flores, I'm not changing anything. I just like the way that they're able to compile wins. 5 in a row now. They're in the playoff hunt.
They are. They're in the hunt. And as Dolphins fans, every time this year, they try not to get too excited, but they won 7 in a row. They got the bye coming up. Then the New York Jets, the Saints. They look like they could be beatable. Then the Titans and the Pats to finish the season. So a little bit of a, rocky schedule there towards the end, but if they can keep it up, keep playing great defense, and Tua going out there and limiting those mistakes, and again, just looking like a surgeon out there. I mean, he knows where he's going with the football, and he puts it there perfectly, and I've been over the moon excited for what I've seen over the last few weeks from Tua.
Let me ask you your opinion on, because very soon, in about a month, we'll start kind of pointing towards the upcoming draft. Where does Miami need to go in that draft? And will Chris Grier be around to oversee it?
That last part's a good question. I mean, I know a lot of this fan base, wants Chris Grier held accountable for some of the mistakes he's made, but at the same time, you see Jalen Phillips playing well. You see Javon Hunt, you see Jalen Waddle. So last year's draft class looks pretty good. So I don't know if he'll be around, but I think, they immediately have to get some left tackle or right tackle. They immediately have to fix those tackle spots. You would have hoped Liam Eichenberg, after he moved up for him last draft, hoped he would have transitioned better there to left tackle. So I don't know what his long-term plan is there, but the Dolphins absolutely need to fix that offensive line, and that starts with the tackles. And then on the defensive side of the football, I mean, linebacker's probably the biggest need there, and I think today Zach Cunningham got released from the Houston Texans that Dolphin fans are just going crazy for. So there's some pieces out there, but I think, focus on linebacker, focus on that offensive line, and I left out running back. You need to get a running back because Myles Gaskin, he can do some things. He's capable, but I'd rather have him as a complement to one of those top-tier backs in next April's draft.
You'll be able to find, this is the thing, and it's been widely reported, you can find a very able running back 4th, 5th round in the NFL. I mean, sometimes there's very little difference between a guy you grab in the 2nd round and a guy you get in the 5th.
Hard to argue with that at all, and I guess maybe that's why the Dolphins have avoided the position. I mean, I just keep going back to 2 years ago when they drafted Tua, and they used that last pick. I think it was the 31st pick on Noah Igbenogany, who's now playing special teams, when that could have been Jonathan Taylor. So he had some opportunities to upgrade that offense, the running back position, but I think heading into next year, those will be the 3 positions they target most.
Okay, let us take a look, because I look at it this way when they play the Patriots. Is that their last game of the season?
It is, yep.
I mean, if I'm the Dolphins, I'm just going to tell that team, hey, when you weren't playing that well, you beat the Patriots.
Right. Yeah,
so you're playing a lot better now than you were then.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Dolphins, even just looking back at week 1, they did beat the Patriots, but this team has come so far since then, and this defense has really clamped down. I know there's a lot of our talks about Tua in that offense, finally going out there, executing and winning games, but the way this Dolphins defense, I mean, they're playing with their hair on fire. Jalen Phillips broke the rookie record for sacks. I mean, Javon Hunt looks like a stud, so got to tip your hat to that defense, because without them being able to get some of those takeaways, get the ball back for Tua, these wins won't be happening.
Well, obviously, that's absolutely critical. What's your assessment of the job Brian Flores has done?
Earlier in the year, I mean, I was probably like everybody else. I was wondering, what's next? Why did they let this dark cloud loom over this franchise? Why did they, ruin this promising season? But now, the trade deadline passed, and you're starting to get a different sense out of Miami. You're starting to see these players fight hard and show that they love this team. They love the camaraderie, love one another, and I think, despite everything that happened, I think that at the end of the year, Brian Flores will be retained. I think they'll probably end up keeping Chris Grier, and they're going to give these guys a 4th season, and I just hope that, everything that Tua has proven so far and everything he proves over these next 4 weeks is enough to show this franchise. You don't need to go out there and, sell the farm and instead get 3-4 first-round picks for a guy with so many questions. When you got Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback that you want in the draft, right here in your lap. So I think Brian Flores will be back.
It's funny. I'm hearing rumors. First, it was all about Deshaun Watson. And obviously, Stephen Ross decided to get out of that sweepstakes. Not to say that the Dolphins couldn't re-enter it at some point. But now, lately, I've been hearing Russell Wilson kind of rumors. And I'm thinking, really? I mean, people forget this. Russell Wilson, before playing reasonably well last week against San Francisco, he laid 3 bombs in a row. I just think the days of where you would give up a king's ransom for Russell Wilson are long gone. I just don't see that in the cards anymore.
I'm with you, and I've heard Aaron Rodgers as well as one of those rumored bets to be the target, but if you put him behind that offensive line, it's going to be in shambles. I think Tua masks a lot of what that offensive line, the inabilities of them, and I think, I like Tua. I don't think they should go out there. I don't think they should try to sell the farm for anyone, because then you're giving up those assets that you would use on the offensive line on some of those other positions. So I don't get any of it, but I have heard Russell Wilson, and I think what's most funny about that is I think some people did some cut-ups of Tua in college, and they literally flipped it so it looked like Tua was throwing right-handed, and everyone's like, that looks just like Russell Wilson. So I don't know. I think we just need to give Tua time, let him develop, and let's see where this thing can go.
No, I just think this is interesting. And when they do play the Patriots on the season finale, that could be a meaningful game. And Tua would be face up against the guy that could never beat Tua out at Alabama.
Yeah, and Tua has not lost in the Patriots yet since he's been the starting quarterback in the Dolphins. So I got to throw that out there.
You know, it's kind of funny because it's last month, was it Monday night? I just thought that the fact that the Patriots decided to only throw 3 passes with Mac Jones. I mean, he was 2 for 3 for 19 yards. I know it was incredibly windy and cold, but I just wonder if Tua had been the quarterback, do you take more chances, sort of like the way Buffalo did? I'm not saying that Tua's got an arm. Some people have questioned his arm strength. I just think that I don't get that because Tua can make all the throws, and he proved it in college.
Yeah, he did, and I mean, I guess I can see some of the throws he's made, or maybe why there'd be some doubt there. But I laughed when you said Mac Jones because I was just wondering what the national media, how they would have spun that if Tua went out there and only completed 2 or 3 passes. And I thought it was most funny that all of them were on the right side, and Logan Ryan said how he could throw on the left side, but Mac Jones apparently can't.
Hey, you know what? A lot is dictated by the results, and the Patriots won the darn game. Good for them. Yep. Hey, Josh, thanks so much. Enjoyed having you on with us. Always good to talk with you. Have a great holiday.
You too, and I look forward to talking to you again sometime soon, Bobby. Enjoy your holiday, and Merry Christmas.